Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Chris Grows Up. This is the second episode in the three-part series on getting unsocial. So last week I introduced the topic of stepping away from Facebook for 2 weeks and why I wanted to do it and what effect I think it would have on me. And now I've just finished my first week of it. So I have been detoxing my Facebook consumption. And it's been really interesting, really good, really challenging, and really insightful, all in the one kind of package. And it was funny because my wife, Amy, said to me at the start, because she's been following along as well. And she said to me, Chris, you've just done this really interesting series and challenging series on connecting with people on the outskirts of your life who you don't talk to that much, or who you can just, pass in the street kind of thing. And surely something like that is much harder to do, or much more intense and challenging and rewarding than something like, just stopping Facebook. Because lots of people stop Facebook all the time. Everyone's saying I've got to detox on Facebook, whatever. Surely this is not as challenging. And honestly, this last week, if it's proven anything, it's that it is extremely challenging, and it kind of speaks to the addictive nature of social media on how challenging it actually is. And in the sense that it hasn't been harder than the last challenge, but it's been more persistent. When I thought of this topic, I thought, I use Facebook a bit and it's taking away from my time with family, and I could be doing better things, and do I really need to be soaking up all this rubbish from the internet? That was the initial thought, but I didn't realize how much of a foothold it had in my life, and the growth I can achieve cutting it out. And so I've got just some info to tell you about how my first week's gone and what I want to do in the next week leading up, and just some thoughts and even some stats that I kind of collected during the week, because it's just been a full-on week. So first thing I felt was I just felt, it sounds really bizarre, I felt a little bit lonely this week. Cutting it, being away from all the social media, all the connections that provide, I felt a little bit lonely and disconnected from people. And lonely in the sense that, when I would think, I want to do Facebook now, or I'll go connect on Facebook or whatever, and I would stop myself, I find myself then doing other things. I deliberately wanted to fill my time with other things, more positive. So I'd go and I'd be cleaning the house, or I'd be sitting down with one of my sons playing toys or whatever. And then once I'd finished that other activity, I'd kind of be like, all right, what's there to do now? And I would find myself a little bit lost. It sounds really weird, but honestly, I would find myself a little bit lost as to what to do next. And sometimes I find myself bored. I was like, okay, I haven't got all these little fillers in that Facebook provided in my life. So classic, I said last week, Facebook is the thing you do before you do your thing. It's we use it as this gap filler. It's putty. It's life putty. And you put it in all the gaps in your life, so you're never in a place where you feel like you've got nothing to do, because we need to keep ourselves busy. That's the Western mindset of this age. And so, I found myself kind of a little bit lonely and a little bit bored, which I wasn't expecting at all. I got a lot done. Oh my goodness, I got a lot done. The house has been spotless all week. I've spent so much more quality time with my family, I feel like. I've noticed a lot more when my wife is on Facebook, because it's we'll be sitting down and the kids are in bed, we'll be having a glass of wine, or we'll be doing something, or watching TV or anything. And I'll be sitting on the couch and she'll be on Facebook, and I'm kind of just standing there watching her, and I'm like, hey, Amy, how you going? And she'll be like, yeah, good. Back on Facebook. So I've noticed that a lot more. Notice how much more she's on Facebook as well, which has been really interesting. One thing I've been doing, and I'll show you this in a minute, is I've been logging the times that I wanted to use Facebook. And that's been one of the most insightful kind of bits of information that I got out of this, is how often, the frequency in which I've been turning to Facebook. But what was more interesting than the frequency of it was the reasons why I went to Facebook. When I was feeling I wanted to go to Facebook, and I recorded them as well. And some really interesting things I've discovered while looking at this is, quite often I'd go to Facebook. So first of all, the most common kind of reason I go to Facebook is just to check what's happening, because I was bored, which is not the most healthy response. If you're bored, healthy response is do something productive, and Facebook, I can tell you right now, it's not productive. So that was an unhealthy reason to go to Facebook. The second thing, when I was frustrated, I'd turn to Facebook. So I was working on a complicated bit of code doing some coding, like computer coding, and I couldn't bust it, I couldn't crack it. And I just got frustrated. I said, all right, I'm just going to stop. I'm going to give up. And so I stopped. And the first thing my mind wanted to do was go to Facebook. The first thing. And I was like, and I kind of stopped myself and thought, that's actually really unhealthy that my mind would go, all right, it needs something to feel good about myself. I should turn to Facebook. When I could have turned to something much better, like go for a walk, or I don't know, sit down and just think, or just, I don't know, maybe not turn to food, but other healthy things. I even found that I would turn to Facebook when I was angry. If I was really angry, I'd be like, I just need to, and I'd go away and I'd be like, want to turn on Facebook. I'm like, no, I don't. And tired. Well, often when I was tired, I'd turn to Facebook, which was really bizarre and silly, but that's just what I came up with. As well as that, I'd find there'd be things in my routine that would trigger Facebook. So times when I would naturally go to Facebook. So for instance, this sounds really bad parenting, but I'm being completely honest here with you. When I'd be feeding my son a bottle before he'd go to bed, and I've got him on my lap and I've got the bottle in his hand, and I'd have another hand flicking through Facebook to keep myself amused while I'm feeding my son a bottle. And I'd constantly, whenever my son would need a bottle, I automatically think Facebook, like I should go to Facebook. And so I found that came up a few times. Before went to sleep, Facebook. Oh, no, I shouldn't need to use Facebook. Come into my mind. Second thing, waking up in the morning, first thing I do is Facebook. And it was just everywhere in my day, and it was hidden in these little schedules. So to give you an idea of the frequency, and I'll pull this apart a little bit more on the last video after the next week of no Facebook, and I want to tell you, do a little segment on the things that I missed over the last 2 weeks in Facebook, and a kind of a totaling of all the hours that I think I would have spent on Facebook. But for instance, Monday, there was 7 times when I wanted to go on Facebook. So 9 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the Arvo, 3:09 in the Arvo, 3:11, like a couple minutes after, 4:39, 6:45, 6:52, 9:26 before I went to bed. Tuesday, 8, so 5:53, 7, 11, 1 o'clock, 3:45, 4, 6, 9 again. Wednesday, slightly less, only 4. Tuesday, only 3. Friday, only 2. And Saturday and Sunday, just 1 time each. And so if you see, I did a little diagram because I like little diagrams. It's actually a graph. A graph. Let me show you my graph. This is my graph. So you can see, I don't know how well you can see this, and I couldn't be bothered making a digital copy of this and putting it up on this thing because that would look stupid. But because this looks less stupid. But yeah, you can see a gradual diminish in the times when I've wanted to use Facebook. 7 on the first day, 8 on the second, 4, 3, 2, 1, and 1. So there's clearly there's a trend here. But there's also other things that factor into this. Like weekends, for instance, I'm less likely to use Facebook because I'm more engaged with my family. But to kind of close up, because I know I'm spending a lot of time, it was just a really interesting week of no Facebook. And I got a lot done, and I got a lot frustrated. I became frustrated quite a lot. But I think ultimately it was good and healthy. And I'm interested to see if that trend continues. So if I have a lot of days when I'm just wanting to use Facebook once or twice, and what happens. And so that's it. I will see you. Oh, that was a loud clap. I will see you next Monday as I wrap up the series on Facebook, what I learned. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to do a totaling of all the hours that I reckon I've spent as well as what I've missed. But if you are continuing with this journey and you're doing the no Facebook thing for this week with me, good luck. And I will see you on Monday. Hope you're having a good week. Don't forget to subscribe on the button down here or here or here or wherever the button is. Have a good week and don't forget to grow up.